So I'd like to thank the folks who've been commenting on the videos that I've been creating, especially the last one where it was just me sitting here talking. We got Loverboy, Carol Chappell, and Adam Mora. And I was creating the video this morning. I was thinking through some ideas for creating a video this morning. And then I got this comment from Adam Mora. He says, "Best of luck. I was hoping you would go into more depth for reasons why you quit and why it was killing you. Also, why you took this risk, especially at 50 and walking away from a cushy job." So I thought instead of creating some big elaborate video, I would just respond to that particular question. But it's pretty multi-layered and it's probably pretty lengthy, so I'll be as brief as I possibly can. The reasons why I quit, or I'll go into why I feel like it was killing me. It's kind of a long story. I mean, I really have felt that way my entire working life. I know a lot of people feel that way when you get your first job. It just doesn't feel right, and then you go along through your career and you start to develop the direction that you'd want to go in for your career. I think when I really realized that maybe I was a little bit different and that maybe this corporate America thing wasn't for me was when when my first day on my last job, or not my first day, but more as maybe 6 months into the last job that I had. And I had that job for almost 15 years. So the first year on the job, I was meeting a lot of new people, and this was a really great corporate job. It was an aerospace company, or still is an aerospace company, but an aerospace company. And when I knew I was different was when, after a year of working there, I felt those same old feelings that I felt about all the previous jobs that I had before, which was I just felt like there was more for me. There's something better out there for me to do, something that I really wanted to do that was different than that particular job. And why I knew I was maybe different than everybody else is because all the people around me, the new friends that I was making at this job, were getting their degrees. And, this is the type of job you can make a career out of. In fact, most of my friends are still at this company making really good money. They all got their degrees and they're doing really well. Not all of them, but most of them got their degrees and are doing really, really well. So that's when I knew I was a little bit different. I mean, a year into it, I'm opening up a yoga studio, and, 2 years in, 3 years in, now I'm trying to do a podcast network, and all the while I'm playing music, all these little side hustles, still holding on to the dreams that these things are still possible. And while I'm doing that, my friends are going to school, they're getting raises, they're moving up in the company, and I just didn't feel like I, fit in there. I didn't feel like my skills were being best used. I'm more of a creative person. I want to be creating. I don't really care to pull parts and what other jobs I was doing. It just didn't feel right. So it's a really tough question to ask why it was killing me. I genuinely don't have a real answer for that, other than I just didn't feel like I fit in that type of work. And at the same time, I was too scared to make the move, to make the jump. I mentioned it in my last video. I'd always ask the universe or ask God to make it easy for me to make this decision. And that didn't happen until, this year in March. The decision was made easy for me. So like I mentioned, it's really difficult for me to answer why it was killing me, but it was. I mean, I felt depressed a lot of the days. I didn't have very good positive thoughts about life in general. I think my hobbies, the things that I love doing outside of work, really did keep me alive. They kept me motivated to keep trying to do something different. They allowed me to have that creativity. But what I found at the end of the day was it just wasn't enough to gig on the weekends or podcast once a week. It just really wasn't enough. So what got me to that pivotal moment of quitting was a very unique situation. My wife, Mindy, and I worked in the same department. We've both worked for the same company for a number of years, but we ended up strangely working in the same department, which is kind of unheard of. And there was one day, and to go back, I'd always ask the universe, help me make this decision, easier. And there was one day in particular where our previous boss had my wife in a room, and was yelling at her at the top of her lungs. And I could hear it from my cubicle, 4 cubicles away from the door that they were behind, the closed door, and I could hear it. At first, I didn't know that it was my wife in there, but I heard yelling, and I asked one of my cube mates, I'm like, "Do you hear that yelling in there? What's going on?" Come to find out, it was my wife that was in there, and that was the beginning of me going, I don't want to do this anymore. To make a long story short, we went home after that incident happened, came in the next day, and I didn't want to be there. That's all I could tell you is I just didn't want to be there. I couldn't look at this boss. I didn't want to work for this corporation that would allow that kind of behavior. And the thing I asked for, the decision being made easy for me, was right there in front of me. We went back to get some of our stuff after being off for about a week or something like that. And with every part of my body, I was like, every cell in my body was like, you are never going to work here again. And that's a scary idea because there's a weird feeling because there's a lot of courage behind it that says, oh, I'm never coming back here again. And you just feel sort of invincible. It's sort of an invincible feeling, which is great because it is the motivation that you need to move on. But now 6 months later, you go, oh my goodness, you definitely have your moments where you go, did I make a mistake? And I'm not quite sure whether I did or didn't yet, right? Because we're still in the very beginning stages of making this thing grow. And it's definitely scary, but I can tell you that I feel different now. I don't wake up feeling, as low as I did before. I look forward to the work that we're doing. So mentally, I feel better. But it was nice to have that cushy job. It did pay well, and that's tough. It's tough to see those things go away. But there just comes a point, I think, in every person's life or maybe every creative's life where hopefully the decision is made easy and you just go, I can't do this anymore. Now, we didn't have an incredible plan going forward. We had a little bit of a plan, but not an incredible one. We weren't really sure what we were going to do. There was one point where we thought we would own a music store. There was a music store for sale, and it was our second attempt at trying to buy it. And hindsight, maybe we should have, who knows? But it would have been close to what I loved doing, but I really love doing what we're doing. So back to the question here, and also why did I take the risk, especially at 50, walking away from the cushy job? So the timing was right. Obviously the situation motivated me. I didn't want to be around these types of situations anymore. I was tired of working for other people. I was tired of corporate America. So that was made easy in that regard. But also, we had the opportunity to take a little bit of a chance. We're giving ourselves about a year to make this thing happen. We're about 6 months into it. So we did have the opportunity with a little bit of savings to make it happen. And I just thought, what better time to do it than right now? Yes, I'm getting older. The runway is running out, but I would absolutely regret it if I got to the end of my life, as I mentioned in the last video, and I never gave it a try. What better time is there? I feel like when you're younger, you don't have the money, to sustain yourself. And as you're older, you do have a little bit of that. So hopefully I was able to explain why it was killing me. I think it's a difficult thing to explain when you just feel a certain way. The outside doesn't match what you feel like you should be doing. And a lot of you, I worked for almost 30 years doing that stuff. I just felt like what better time than now to give it a shot. But I really do appreciate your question. I hope that I answered your question. I do want to get into on this channel a little bit more of, how things are actually going for us. I'm going to say a little bit of that right now. So when we started our podcast, so first of all, we've been doing our podcast audio only for a very, very long time. We opened our YouTube channel about 5 years ago. We did a few videos we put out there, and we never really invested in the video part of it. So we started it in April, late April or March. I think it was April 14th is when we started really pushing out the video. I think at the time we had about 200 views on our page. So I think right now we're at 910,000 views on our page. So we really pushed a lot of shorts out there. The shorts are what have given us the most views. We had one video that got 109,000 1,000 views, which was excellent. But what we really want is for our long forms to pick up, and our highest long form video is a little over 400 views, which is not incredible. I mean, it's not going to sustain you. You're not going to make a living doing that, but we're proud of it. And we've made a lot of adjustments, you know, over this last 7 months or whatever it is we've been really focusing on it. So I'm going to keep you guys updated on how that's all going. And our merchandise line is great. We have great designs, but we've only sold to a few people. All of this stuff takes work. You know, you've got to really invest and get good at the marketing part of it. And sometimes you just got to keep doing it. You know, you really don't know what the answers are when you haven't stepped into something that you're familiar with. I mean, having a regular 9-to-5 job, that was something we were very familiar with. I've done it on my whole life. I watched my parents do it. So I knew what that was like, you know? I mean, I was around it my whole life. But to step into something that I don't know and try to make it something is so crazy because you have no map. You have no map at all. You're kind of steering yourself blind and hoping, you know, and checking stuff out on YouTube and listening to other people and connecting with your peers and hoping you're heading in the right direction. You know, it's all up to your hard work and the chance that something hits, you know? So again, hopefully I answered your question, and I appreciate the comments. Keep them coming. I'm going to keep on doing these and updating you on how things are going. I'm going to also share some other things like what is my grind, you know, what is my break from the grind? It's music and other things. So I'd like to take you guys on that journey a little bit and show you, you know, a day at a gig or, you know, stuff like that. So there's going to be some videos to come here in the future. I'm also going to continue to interview people. I've got some friends that I want to bring in and talk to them about what their grind is and how they break from their grind. Or maybe there's people out there that broke from corporate America like I did and started a business. Those are the types of interviews that I want to start to get. So stay tuned to the channel. There's going to be a lot coming your way, but I do appreciate the early comments and the early support. Thank you guys very much. I'll talk to you in the next video.